All right, let's kick things off. First of all, thanks everybody for jumping in here in person, and for all of you that are online. Hopefully you can see and hear and everything like that. We've done a few checks and balances. We should be all good. For those in person, there is some food coming if you want some food. For those online, you can just smell it through the microphone. We do have a bit of a change in the time, so we usually do these at night time, 5:30 our time in Melbourne. But because of the guru that we've got online with us today, Dewain Robinson, we've just changed the time to accommodate time zones and things like that. It is a little bit late, so we'll hear from Dewain very, very shortly. He's a little bit under the weather, has had a little bit of COVID, so I really appreciate him jumping on for this session. I'm just going to run through a few things very, very quickly first, because I just want to hand over to him very quickly, because he's going to jump in to do some cooler things than what I can do and what I can talk about. So what I'm going to do first is just go through, we did have a big Copilot Wave 2 announcement a couple of weeks ago. You may have seen a few things. So I'm just going to go through a few key things from that, and then I'll hand over to Dewain. So as I said, for those here, there'll be some food, there's some drinks, there's toilets out the back there too. And I'll go through some Wave 2 stuff, and then as I said, I'll hand over to Dewain to do some Copilot Studio and custom Copilot stuff. If you do have any questions, those of you online, when I finish speaking, I'll jump into the chat. So if you've got any questions, just jump in there and ask away there, and I'll collate those and ask those at the end. First of all, a couple of sponsors, SharePoint search templates. If you are using SharePoint and you want to make your search experience a hell of a lot nicer and better, jump over there. There's some templates that are built on top of the P&P search that you can grab and download, deploy documents, events, and news there. Digital first for all your professional services around Microsoft 365. So whether it is SharePoint, Teams, Dynamics, all of that sort of Power Platform stuff, head over there. Also, Sprocket have come on board to sponsor as well. So jump over at sprocket365.com around, it is a SharePoint app that's built on, obviously, inside of SharePoint, giving you a knowledge base over and above what SharePoint can do. Pretty cool product as well. PAL Software, they're running a webinar on the 10th of October at 1 o'clock, all around, again, SharePoint search. So head over there. I'll pop the links in the chat as we go along. All right, let's jump into some things that have come out in the last couple of weeks, or that will be, or that were announced that will be coming out in due course. Some are rolling out right now, some will be there later on this year. The first thing is, you may have seen Copilot Pages. So this is going to be pretty interesting to see how people use this. So it is really going to be the first type of digital artifact in this new sort of Copilot age. Now, I know there's going to be a stack of questions around where they're stored, all of that sort of stuff. I'll jump into and post the links to the information about where these pages are stored, what they are, how they work, all that sort of stuff as well in the chat. I won't go through that in this session, but I will provide all the information about that. They are dynamic, persistent canvases, and you'll see, I've got a little video in a sec, but you will see, kind of looks like loop, because they are loop pages. All right, so that's why they look like that. And when you're asking questions or conversing with Copilot, you will be able to then create a page, which is a loop page from all of that content. Key features, they are persistent, they're shareable, and I don't know, Microsoft have got this thing around multiplayer now, so whether they're bringing gaming into their terminology and stuff like that, but it just means you can have multiple people working collaboratively and all of that sort of stuff. Let me just jump over here and we'll have a quick look at this little video, and this is going to tell us all about Pages.
Introducing Copilot Pages. Pages is a dynamic, persistent canvas designed for multiplayer AI collaboration. Let's say you work for an EV charging company and there's a new business opportunity. You start in BizChat, where you ask Copilot to do some research on the web. You want some basic information, like the number of daily passengers and information on the number of parking spaces with EV chargers. Copilot pulls the information and you turn the response into a page so you can keep working. You want to share what you've got so far and ask your colleagues to help. So you tag them. Now everyone can immediately start to contribute and you can see their edits in real time. Next, you need to get started on a plan for your proposal. So let's switch over to the Work tab. Here you can ask Copilot to reference a previous plan to give you a head start. Copilot pulls in the deliverables, work back schedule, and owners, which you add to your page. Immediately, your colleagues can begin updating the work back schedule and assigning owners. The next step is the proposal outline. You want to review the customer needs, so a coworker uses Copilot to pull in a bulleted list of requirements from a recorded meeting with the customer last week. In seconds, Copilot is able to synthesize the discussion and give your team the key takeaways. Now you're ready to start building the proposal. Last year, you landed a similar deal, so you want to reuse that great work. You ask Copilot to use that proposal as a starting point and update it to include the new customer requirements. With one last click, Copilot pulls it all together for you. Pages is an entirely new pattern of work designed for human to AI to human collaboration.
All right, pretty cool, I reckon. And yes, sorry, I'm not sharing audio. Rookie mistake. I am going to fix that right now. So just give me 2 seconds. And I will stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to include sound this time. And I'm going to jump over there. All right. Are we back? Can you see my screen? We all good? Yes, we're good. All right. Sorry about that. So Copilot Pages, that's them. Now, Copilot Agents, which is Dewain's realm, but these are going to be insanely valuable. All right. So what you're going to be able to do, or agents are around your AI assistants, right? So designing, automating and business process and actually getting these little things to go out and do some stuff for you. So they are going to range in capability from just from simple prompts and responses, but all the way through to more autonomous type of agents as well. And it is, you will be using, to build these, we'll be using Copilot Studio to be able to build these as well. I do have another video. I'll be very, very quick, I'm hoping. So this is Copilot Studio, the agent builder. So we'll just jump into this.
Copilot agents can supercharge every business process and build capacity for every individual and team, scaling your impact like never before. Now, with Agent Builder and BizChat, we're bringing the power of agents to you, right in the flow of your work. And we made them incredibly easy to create. Say you want to build an agent for field service technicians, and you want this agent to have access to all your product knowledge and be able to give you step-by-step instructions in real time. You open Agent Builder and describe that you want it to be able to reason over your product catalog and repair tickets. It's built in seconds and ready to use. You can edit and configure it, expand its knowledge base by tapping into resources like SharePoint sites or other IT-approved data sources. You can even update its name or image to align with your company's branding. You can now test the agent or hit create and you're done. And of course, the agent respects your organization's Microsoft 365 and SharePoint security permissions. Now your Copilot agent is ready in BizChat and you can share it with your team.
All right, there we go. Agents, taking that a little bit of a different direction, if I can find my mouse somewhere, is in SharePoint as well, right? So you're going to be able to create these little agents inside of SharePoint. which what we just saw there was in BizChat. This time, this one is going to be inside of SharePoint, right? So we've got all of our content, not on file servers, have we? We've got it all in SharePoint and we're getting ready to go. But here...
Now with Agent Builder in SharePoint, you can turn every SharePoint site into an agent. You're a field service technician, and there's an issue that requires further research and follow-up. Your team keeps all its customer records, from deployment to maintenance reports, on a SharePoint site. You can create an agent with a single click from any SharePoint site, library, or folder. It can answer questions about the source material, reason over that material, and take action, just like a well-informed teammate would. In just a few seconds, your Copilot agent is ready to be used or shared with others. Let's add it to your Teams chat so everyone can work with the agent. You can @mention the agent as you would any other teammate, sharing new information and asking it questions, and it will respond in real time. Now everything in that SharePoint site is immediately accessible and useful.
So there we go, Copilot agents in SharePoint and in BizChat coming very, very shortly, I think, or Dewain might be able to help me out with the dates here, but I think that's rolling out right now and they will appear. Now, Copilot in OneDrive, again, relatively new-ish here, but being able to use Copilot inside of OneDrive to do a few things, all right? So I'm going to jump into a live demo here, I'm hoping, which is this one here. So inside of OneDrive, you'll see that we've got this Copilot button here now as well. So what we can do is select a document, and now we've got these Copilot options. We can summarize, we can create FAQs, or we can ask questions over these, right? So here, if I want to summarize that, I just hit summarize, and it's going to, depending on the size of the document, obviously, this is a fairly large document. It's going to give me a summary of that particular document, all right? So very, very quick, very, very easy to get a nice quick summary. Same thing with FAQs, right? So we can select a document, create FAQs, or ask a specific question. But an option here is we can select up to 5 documents here, and we can then now say, compare these files. So what's going to happen here is it's going to look at those 3 files, compare the differences between it, and give me a little report here on what these key differences are. Now, these documents don't relate to each other, but if you had documents that are fairly similar or have changed or of a particular topic, then it's going to give us a comparison in a table format like so. And then also we can ask questions, right? Tell me more about option 2. If I'm not even typing in the right thing. Tell me more about option 2. And then again, it's going to just go out and find the relevant content and give me the benefits and give me all the information about that particular option 2. So if you're writing proposals or statements of work or things like that, then that comes in extremely handy for us as well. So OneDrive, Copilot in OneDrive, going to be very, very powerful for us as well. All right. There are a stack more things. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. I will provide links to the information. There's Teams, there's Outlook, there's PowerPoint, which is pretty cool. But 2 important things in Microsoft Teams for Copilot is around being able to now reason over both meeting transcripts and also the meeting chats, right? Which you never used to be able to do before. So both of those, chats and transcripts. Things like you can ask Copilot if there's any questions that you've missed and all that type of stuff too, both in those contexts. So that should be almost rolled out. We are almost at the end of September, so it is generally available in September. Copilot in Outlook, we've got a new feature coming called Prioritize My Inbox. So again, using profile information, quickly getting messages that matter to you based on your particular, or in the context of your particular role, and it'll automatically generate summaries of emails and things like that as well. Public preview at the end of this year. There is some other announcements. I'll pop those in the chat as well. PowerPoint's a big one. We've got some really good things happening around PowerPoint as well, which I will pop in there. I'm going to now hand over to Dewain Robinson, who just told me his title has changed. I've quickly changed that. He's now the Principal Architect or Principal Copilot Architect. So he's just been presenting at the Power Platform conference in Las Vegas. So where he kind of caught a bit of COVID, and but is still around for us. So I am going to stop sharing my screen, and I am going to hand over to Dewain.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay? Get thumbs up if you can hear me.
We can.
There we go. Oh, I get hands up.
Hands up, hands up.
No, but
now, how am I going to get this?
All right, excellent. So I'm going to share my screen here and make sure you guys can see my screen. Daniel, you see everything on your side? Oh, you're on mute. I think that was a hand up to say yes. Okay. So I'm going to assume you guys can see everything. Okay. So I'm Dewain Robinson. I'm Principal Copilot Architect for Copilot Studio. And I've been working with this technology space for quite some time. Hello from everyone from Australia and other parts of the world. So what I figured I would do today is kind of go over a couple of different things that we've been working on, just so that you guys can take a look at this and just kind of the general how you go through and author a Copilot or an agent in Copilot Studio. There has been some terminology change that has happened. And by the way, if you scan this QR code, you'll get my contact information, so that if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, you'll also get links to my YouTube channel, which is copilotstudiodude.com as well. And many of you guys may have seen some of the videos that I record, but basically I do a lot of recording on educational content on Copilot Studio, so definitely kind of check that out. So the key thing is, as far as a change in terminology, Copilot Studio will remain as Copilot Studio. However, what we used to refer to as a custom Copilot, we are now going to refer to that as an agent or a custom agent. And then what we used to call extensions, which is like an extension to the M365 Copilot, for example, we're going to change that to Big C Copilot Agents. So just be aware that there's a little bit of a change in the naming of this, and feel free to, kind of take a screenshot of this if you'd like or whatever. And I would anticipate you're going to see some more lean in from Copilot Studio building agents. We're trying to separate this concept of what is an agent versus what is a Copilot brand of a product. People were getting a lot of confusion around everything being called Copilot, so they're trying to separate that a little bit for you guys to make it a little bit clearer. So maybe we start with what is an agent. And an agent is basically going to be a conversational application that is using generative AI in the back end to be able to produce a solution, a conversational application. And so when you guys are looking at, the difference between a traditional bot and an agent, it really depends on whether or not that has generative AI as part of its building blocks as we continue forward. Next thing is, if you don't know what Copilot Studio is our end-to-end SaaS agent builder. It's going to allow you to build an agent however you would like, allow you to write Copilot agents to extend Microsoft first-party Copilot products, but it is an end-to-end SaaS. So it not only does it create, it hosts, it does the telemetry, it has DevOps pipelines, it has DLP and security as a management interface and things of that nature. It comes complete with all the tools from Power Automate so that you get all the premium connectors and everything and your business process automation. All of that is inside of Copilot Studio. And so just be aware that Copilot Studio is more than just a tool for building because it does all of these different things. Now, with that, we always run into interesting discussions around what's the difference between these different pieces inside of Microsoft's portfolio. So I'm going to start with this side over here, which is going to be your first-party Copilot products from Microsoft. The most popular one of these is going to be the M365 Copilot. And what you'll find is that what Copilot Studio does is it builds Copilot agents or the extensions for this. Now, the way I like to talk about this, and I think the easiest way to think of it, is that you actually want to think of kind of like the same way you think of a smart speaker. If you think about first-party Copilots from Microsoft are very much like that, where what they are is they are an out-of-the-box solution, and they are limited to channels. So if you take a smart speaker and you sit it down on your desk at home and plug it in, you're not going to just start texting to it, right? You're going to have to talk to it through the channels in which it supports, and in this case, probably like voice for typical smart speakers. Now, if we look at it and go a little further, you can also say, well, those things ship with out-of-box experiences. You can't make a smart speaker where you can't ask it to set a timer or ask it to tell you the weather. It's going to do those things out of the box, and it's going to do those things no matter which one you buy. It's going to be consistent that this is something that it does, and you're not going to turn that off. Now, beyond that, though, a smart speaker can be controlled just like a first-party Copilot can be controlled to be able to be extended or be able to provide additional capabilities. So when you think about it, think about like controlling your thermostat at home with a smart speaker. You might have to choose a different extension depending on what brand of thermostat you have at home. But the ability to do that and it not being in the box, but something you can do as an extension or as would be the concept of a Copilot agent that can be built. Again, with Copilot Studio, it's not just building it, it's also hosting it, putting the governance in, all of those things for those Copilot agents that you're building as those extensions. Now, if I go to the other side, which is the other extreme where people go, I want to build my own custom agent or my own custom Copilot type of conversation. A lot of people think that Azure AI Studio and Copilot Studio are competitive. I hear a lot of times that Copilot Studio is pro code and Azure AI Studio is, that Copilot Studio is low code and that Azure AI Studio is pro code. This is actually not the differentiation between these two products. One is an apple, one is an orange. They are not the same thing. They actually don't compete with one another. And so let's talk about what Azure AI Studio is. Azure AI Studio is, first of all, it's a PaaS-based solution. And what I mean by that is platform as a service. So, and it's not a platform per se that you can go build conversational agents 100%, because what it's all about is models. It's all about you taking a large language model or a small language model and being able to tune that or adjust it to your specific needs. And so if you want to build a model that will allow you to generate RFP responses, then this is a thing that Azure AI Studio can do all day. Now, Satya Nadella will tell my sales field why Azure AI Studio can do like 7 different things, and everyone just thinks it does RAG patterns. So can we please stop talking about just RAG patterns? And for those of you that don't know what I mean by a RAG pattern, RAG pattern. RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. If that doesn't make it sound any clearer for you, it basically means the same thing you think of when you think of ChatGPT. It's basically search over data and summarize a response. And so while you can build those inside of Azure AI Studio, you will find that there is a SaaS-based implementation inside of Copilot Studio of this, and I think this is why a lot of people get confused between the two products. But Copilot Studio at its core isn't about building models, it's about building conversational orchestration. And think of it that if you don't really understand conversational orchestration too much, I'm going to give you some more details, but think of it that it's the traffic cop. It's the thing that says go left when you say this and go right when you say that, and being able to go back and forth. And what you'll find is that most people actually need both of these things, both Azure AI Studio and Copilot Studio, to end up getting the full breadth of what they want. And now the good news is that Copilot Studio out of the box also built SaaS-based implementations of RAG patterns. So you don't have to necessarily build all of that from scratch. But if you find yourself in a situation where you need to have a Azure AI Studio implementation, Copilot Studio interacts and connects with Azure AI Studio to allow you to have a full end-to-end solution that includes both conversational orchestration and also model enablement. Now, just to double click a little bit on conversational orchestration to make sure you understand what we mean by this. We mean that you can author topics. You can actually say, this is exactly how I want this thing to behave. If you want to say, what's the best drink in the world? You know, if I'm Coca-Cola, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to generate the response to that. So this would give you the ability to say, here's the actual answer to this. This is also typically helpful whenever you have things like, think of it like legal things that you need to do, or you need to report your credit card is stolen. You might need to follow a very specific process in order to be able to do that. Then we also have generated responses. So we can say, okay, this particular piece of the conversation, I want to be able to take generative AI, and maybe I want a custom implementation of a GPT model that I've built in Azure AI Studio. I may decide that I want to use generative answers or an implementation of an action or knowledge to be able to provide that service to the customer. And so I can make sure that I can orchestrate that. And I can even route it between multiple implementations. Again, in Azure AI Studio, it's all about one model and what one model can contain, where this in Copilot Studio can actually orchestrate the conversation and route it. The other thing is a lot of people need to be able to escalate and take an escalation process. And that escalation may be to hand off to a live agent, maybe to raise a ticket. But the whole thing is that I need to be able to watch the conversation, see if you're stuck in a loop. Maybe I need, and when I say that, we refer to that as like a conversation churn and things of that nature. So we're watching those type of things as part of the platform to look for it, to make sure that you don't get stuck in loops like that and conversation loops, and make sure that you get to the place that you need to go. And if you don't, we can make sure that we handle that just the same as if someone says, I want to talk to a live agent, being able to honor that request and being able to orchestrate that. Now, all of this is wrapped up with variables that will allow you to be able to store information and route the conversation or keep certain pieces of message state in to allow you to kind of move around in the conversation while also keeping context around the user or any type of variable that you want to store. Now, I'm going to jump into use cases and things like that. What you'll find is that Copilot Studio can do B2C, B2B, and B2E scenarios. And what I mean by that is a business to customer, business to business, or business to employee scenarios. Now, the odd thing is that most people think to start with B2E or business to employee scenarios. But what you're actually going to find out, this is actually the hardest place to start with Copilot Studio, because usually data quality, access control, things like this are much harder in the B2E space, where when we go to like B2C or B2B scenarios, usually the data that's being published or the data that's being used in these two scenarios is much more, it's much more mature. It's gone through some sort of data publishing process to make it safer. It's also, we don't have to worry about what is the situation if this information leaks outside of the organization, because it's already outside of the organization. And so what we find is that these places are the easiest place to get started inside of Copilot Studio. And oddly enough, they're also the highest ROI. So a lot of people are like, I want to build a thing that lets me sign up for benefits. The ROI on that is not very good because of the fact that what you will result in is you'll get this big burst for a couple of months and then it just goes completely dead. Whereas these other scenarios, we've actually had like a B2C scenario that we've done with a company called Holland America Cruise Lines, which is part of Carnival Cruise Lines, the largest cruise line in the world. They're seeing massive ROI on being able to help people find the right cruise and get them booked. And so these are things where we can actually affect the revenue of an organization. I like to say that B2C and B2B are green dollar opportunities for most organizations, which means that it will actually return real physical revenue, whereas B2E scenarios tend to be what I call a blue dollar, which means taking existing resources or existing money and just making it more efficient. In those scenarios, you'll find that it's harder to justify the investment, and it's a little bit harder to prove out value on blue dollars versus green dollars. So just be aware of that. Now, there are 6 major components of Copilot Studio. I'm going to fly over these really quick for you guys. One is going to be topics and the ability to create a custom conversation. That's basically what a topic is. Knowledge. Knowledge is our SaaS-based RAG pattern that we offer inside of Copilot Studio. So you can just point it at your data and it will be grounded in your data and answer questions using your data. That's what we refer to as knowledge. Actions is this concept of a conversational wrapper around an API that will allow you to be able to have a conversation with an API just like it's a human. We also have analytics and reporting. What I will tell you is that it's a little bit lagging inside of the analytics and reporting componentry, but there are major updates coming to the analytics portal and the analytics components of Copilot Studio that's really going to start peeling back the layers and helping you understand the impact of some of the generative AI features. So know that that's coming very soon, and that's going to be a thing that a lot of people are going to see a lot of value in that, as well as a bunch of performance enhancements to make it better than what you are used to today. Channels are going to be, you create your Copilot, but then again, remember I said you can't, the speaker you set on your desk, you can only talk to it through the channel you want that it offers. Same thing on first-party Copilot products, but when we start talking about Copilot Studio has a host of different channels that you can publish to, and you can say, I want to talk to this Copilot through Teams or web chat or Facebook Messenger or over the telephone. All of those type of things, you'll see that is one of the things that Copilot Studio can offer you. And then again, we talked about the variables and being able to store information and be able to get that information and be able to access it programmatically to control the conversation. Now, with that, what I want to do is I want to get into some custom agent authoring and kind of dive into it a little bit and let you see it. And so if you guys want to see some real demos, you got to give me some thumbs up on here, or give me some love and the reaction. Otherwise, I'll just play videos for you all night. What do you think? So, all right, I'm seeing some thumbs. I'm seeing some people being well engaged here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first thing that we're going to do, which is going to be a situation where what we can do in Copilot Studio is we can actually build in a conversational way. So what I mean by that is you can basically explain what you want your Copilot to be, and it will build it out for you for the most part. And so what I will do is I'm going to go through and kind of demonstrate this so that you can see it build something. Here, I'll turn off my little laser pointer here now. And so let's take a look at a demo of this and see how it works. All right. So I'm going to jump over to my Copilot Studio implementation right here. So you guys should be able to see Copilot Studio up on the screen. And I'm going to go ahead and just hit F11 so that it's full screen for you guys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I want to create a new Copilot. And I'm just going to click on create, and then I'm going to say I want a new Copilot. Now, once I do this, this is that new conversational interface. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it some instructions. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to act like we're creating something for the Microsoft Store. And it's going to ask me some questions about this. And then I'm going to come back and it's asking about what kind of tone do you want it to have. And I'm going to answer that with like a joyful, customer focused, all that type of stuff. And then here it's going to ask me, are there any public data that I want? So it's asking me about websites that I might want to use. So I'm going to give it a couple of websites here for the Microsoft Store. And then the last thing it's going to do is it's going to ask me, are there topics that the Copilot shouldn't help or talk about? And I'm going to go ahead and drop that in and just say, I don't want it to discuss things that aren't offered by the Microsoft Store, and I don't want it to talk about religion or politics. And what you're going to see is that once I say I'm done with this, you'll see over here on the right that it's taken notes of all the different things that I've asked it to do. And I'm just going to go ahead and click create here. Now, once I click create, again, this is an end-to-end SaaS. So it's going to build out everything it needs inside of Copilot Studio for this. And you'll even see here that it gave it a name. You're going to see it start loading the description as well. And so just be aware that when this is building, when this all comes in like you see it here, that's when the build is complete for our Copilot. And just to show you that our Copilot is up and it's functional, I'm just going to go ahead and just ask a question like what is the screen size of a Surface Pro 9? And you're going to see it's going to answer this question using the Microsoft support website to answer the question about this particular product. Now, I'm going to jump back over to our presentation really quick to talk about the next thing. So let's talk about variables. So we have all these different variables that we can set. We have different types of variables. We have environment level variables that can be changed based upon the environment. So if I have a lower environment and an upper environment, like a development, QA, and prod, I can have environment variables that change as part of the deployment. I can also have system variables as well. And system variables are going to be things that are set by the system that are available for you to be able to use, things like the channel that it's coming through as an example. And then we have custom variables where you can create your own custom variables. Now, a variable can be scoped. It can be done to a topic level, a global level, or even say that I want to keep it across multiple sessions. And a session is like I'm having a conversation with it. A session can time out like after 30 minutes or something like that, but then you come back and you reconnect. I want to keep those variables around even past that that time frame and keep them around so that if you come back, I still remember where we were in the conversation. So just be aware that these are different types of variables. And then think of it that we also have custom topics that we can use. And those custom topics, you can create them as blank. You can create with the Copilot itself. So there's a Copilot inside of Copilot Studio that helps you build custom topics. You can also build topics with inputs. And this is actually a very interesting concept. It's probably one of my favorite things that we've shipped lately, where it can gather up, like you can just say, hey, here's the information I need you to grab. And you don't have to author out, ask this question, ask that question. So I'll jump into another demo here just to show this to you guys so that you can kind of see it working, because I think it makes it easier to understand. So let's jump over and take a look at that. Hold on, pull up notes here, and let's jump in here and look at this, where we go and we take a look at topics first, inside these topics. So when we look at these topics, I'm going to go ahead and come in here and delete a couple of the sample topics here that I don't need, because these are just little lesson topics. So if you guys go explore those, it'll give you some good information on like kind of how it works and such. But let's go ahead and take a look at a system topic, which is one of the pre-built system ones. And know that we have this one called Conversation Start. And in the Conversation Start, you can see here that it's coming in, it's using like a variable. But just to show you guys an example, a really quick and dirty example, I can come in here and say a system variable, and I can say user, and I'm going to say user display name, and I'm just going to save this off. And by doing this now, what I just did is I used one of my system variables. And now whenever I come in and I start my conversation, you'll see here that it's saying that it knows who I am because that's who I'm logged in as. And know that this is going to be a way where you can kind of take that and customize out your Copilot. Now, this is kind of simplistic kind of stuff. So let's take a look a little deeper. Let's say that what I want to do is I want to create my own custom topic. And one of the ways that I can do that is I can use the Copilot itself to create us a custom topic. So what I'm going to do here on this one is I'm going to come in and I'm going to give it a name that I would like. And then I just want to ask it to create me a topic that allows a user to schedule a consultation for their business needs and what kind of information I want to collect. And I'm just going to say hit create. And when I do this, what's going to happen is, let's hope that it'll run for us here. But what it's going to do now, and I'll close the test pane here so that you can see this, is it went out and it actually created a topic for me. And it trained the trigger phrases. It's collecting a bunch of information like I asked it to. You can even see that that it's identifying the type of entity that it is and all of this wonderful stuff. And you'll even see over here, like I can click on one of these and it will take me to what it is that this thing did. And I can click around and see everything that it did. You can even come in and ask it to do additional things like add additional questions or click on something, and then if I click over here on this node, you'll see that one node selected, so I could give it instructions for just this one node. So with that, let's just go ahead and test this out just to see that it works. So I'm going to just tell it to save. We'll open our test canvas, and what you're going to see is that now I can come in and I can just ask a question to request a consultation with a business expert. And now you see that it's coming down into this particular topic. Now, no need for us to go through and test this all out because we're going to do some cooler stuff, right? So let's go look at the new cool feature that I was talking about, the topic inputs. So I'm going to come in here and create a blank topic. And the one thing I need to do first is actually I need to go into the settings. I'm going to go to generative AI and I'm going to turn this setting on. What this does is it means that it's no longer going to use a language model that I have to train. It's going to use a large language model to figure out how this Copilot is going to work and what it's going to do. So the first thing I want to do is I want to start by creating a topic that's going to let us request a warranty repair. And then I need to explain in this trigger phrase that what this particular topic is going to do. And you can see I'm going to say, I would really like to be able to use this to be able to request a warranty repair. Now, if we come into details and I click on input, you'll see here that I can define some inputs. And I'm going to say I want to create a new variable. And the first variable I'm going to create here is going to be that we need to collect the information on the model of our surface. And know that one good thing is you can have a different display name. So I'm going to give it a different display name. Now, here's where some of the magic comes in, because there's a description right here. And I'm going to put in the description what this thing is actually doing and what I want to collect. Now, I need to collect something more than that. Like I need to collect the serial number as well, not just the model number. So let's go ahead and put the information in to say that we want to collect the serial number as well. And we will explain to it what a serial number is so that it understands what we want. So now we've given it this information, and just know that you can even come in and do like additional settings and say, just like a question, you can say how many times do you want to repeat it. You could do validation, and if it doesn't meet the validation, what you want to say back, all of those things. And with that, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna keep it the way it is, and I'm just gonna go ahead and save this. Now, by doing this, I want to go in and I want to ask it I have to do one last thing here, which is I'm going to come in and I'm going to add a message node that comes back. And what I want to do in this message node is I want to just confirm with you that the model number. So I'm going to say, here's what the model number is, and then I'm going to give you the serial number from the variable that we just set. And now we can save this off. And now that we've done this, let's go ahead and test it, and let's see what happens now with this, because this is where the power really starts to come in of being able to use generative AI. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to say I need to repair my surface. And it's going to come back and it's going to need to figure out. And notice that it fired this topic. It got the right topic, but it generated the question for me because I didn't give it the information on the model number. So let's give it an answer to this, and let's just say it's a Surface Pro 9. All right, and now you see it's asking me for the serial number. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, actually, it's a Surface Pro 8, and the serial number is this, right? So I'm actually correcting the first question, and I'm giving it the rest of the information. Now, if I also had additional pieces of information downstream, I could provide those too, because the way this is going to work is that you're going to see that it will actually go back, update the model number to a Surface Pro 8, and get the serial number that I had. Because the way this is working is it's using natural language detection and understanding what are all the pieces of information. And at any point you can give more information, go backwards and correct something you said before, and all of that, all within topic level inputs. And as you can see, it greatly simplified what I had to do. I didn't have to ask one question, then the next question, then the next question. And whatever I provide, it's going to automatically grab that information and stick it in and slot fill it into those different pieces of input. So this is like a super, super awesome new capability. So you can see that you've got a lot of power in Copilot Studio when we talk about custom topics. So let's flip back over to my presentation, and let's talk about custom connectors. So custom connectors are this concept and connectors. We have this huge connector library. So if you're not familiar with Power Automate or the Power Platform, we have over 1,400 connectors that are out of the box that you can just go ahead and grab and you can go and use. And a lot of the value of that is going to be the fact that if you want to interface with ServiceNow, we already have connectors for ServiceNow. We have all those type of things. We also have it SAP, Salesforce, all those different things, right? But a lot of people have their own custom APIs, and you can create your own custom connectors. Now, what is a connector really? It's just a Swagger file or an open API definition file, but it makes it where you can use that same API over and over again, where you don't have to know all the details. Now, what I'll do is I'll show you one that I already have set up. So we'll jump back over to our demo, and I'll go back over here. And if you want to see the custom connectors, there's a couple of different ways to do it. What I'm going to show you is what I think might be the easiest way to go and look at this. So if you ever want to say like you want to export your Copilot, it'll give you the link to the Power App Solution location. And know that if you don't see custom connectors here, you can go to More and then check them, and it'll allow you to be able to put them in. But let's just look at these custom connectors that I have in my environment. And you'll see right here, I have one for the Microsoft order status. And what I'm going to do is just edit it. You can see here that if you want to see this thing as Swagger, you can flip this switch and you can see it. So if you're into Swagger, you can also see, it'll walk you through step by step. This is an unauthenticated API. You can see here that it's got one action that it can do. That action needs the information of the order number, and you can see here that I'm explaining in the description what an order number is, and you can see that it's giving me this, letting me define that. Then if we go down further, you can see here's the response, and in the response, it's giving me the email, estimated delivery date, item description, order date, tracking number, all these different things. And you'll see that in this, I'm explaining in the description what these things do. Now, the reason this is super important to do that is going to be this next thing that I want to show you guys, which let me flip back over to Copilot Studio really quick. And we'll go back to our presentation just so that we can kind of talk about this next piece. And this next piece is an action. So an action is going to take a connector or a Power Automate flow. It's going to wrap it with a conversational layer. And what that allows me to do when I do this is it allows me to be able to have a conversation with the API as if that API is a human. Now, I was going to demonstrate this to you on that Microsoft order, but I actually want to show you it in a different light so that you can really see this thing work in a different way that maybe is slightly different than getting an order status. So I actually brought along a few other Copilots with me if you guys are cool with me showing you some other cool stuff. And just know that what we're going to do here is we're going to make this where we can play around with it quite extensively and be able to define, here are the inputs that are needed. And also now we are going to have outputs that can be generated as part of this. So let's take a look at this really quick. So I'm going to jump back over to Copilot Studio. And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch tabs here. And I'm going to go into one that I've created, which is an employee assistant. And this employee assistant is connected to a ServiceNow developer instance. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through real quick just to show you what we can do when we start playing with this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and provide information in that, hey, I'm David Miller. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have a conversation with this thing around this. And I'm going to, you don't have to do it this way, but I'm going to just click ticket status here because I have my quick replies set up. And you'll see here, it asked a question about ServiceNow. It's asking me for an incident number. Well, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and give it an incident number that I have. And it's going to come back and it's going to tell me, oh, okay, this is the status. It's new. Okay, well, what is the category of this ticket? And what you're going to see, it's going to come back and it's going to answer that around that ticket. So see, I'm keeping the conversation going, but I didn't just create one action for ServiceNow. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create numerous ones. And I'm going to say, what department does my user profile say I'm in? So now I'm going to start talking to it about my user profile. And you're going to see it answer this question. And now that I'm talking about my user profile and I say, what is the city? It's going to come back and it's going to tell me the city in my user profile is Atlanta. Well, what if I say something like, what is the weather there? And I know it's doing something weird here, but don't worry about that. And you'll see that it picked up that we're talking about Atlanta. And then I'm going to say, what is the weather there? Oh, I'm sorry, I copied the wrong thing. But you can kind of see how this thing is working and allowing me to be able to have this conversation with the API on the back end. And forgive me, I actually have a setting that I don't have, that I've got turned on right now that's causing it to do double answers. But the idea here is that now we're having follow-up conversation and the conversational context is being passed to the API back and forth. And so what I'm being able to do is be able to ask questions and then ask follow-up questions, take results coming out of one API and pass it into another API. And now I have this whole really cool implementation that's going to allow me to do what I'm looking for in actions. So now let's jump back and let's talk about knowledge. So knowledge is, again, when we want to use a RAG pattern, which is like a SAS-based RAG pattern. And when we want to do this, I don't have to do anything except ground in my data. So I'm going to jump back over really quick and let's take a look at what's going to happen when I do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just clear this out so that this way you guys can kind of see it. And what I'm going to do here. And I'm going to show you how we can do this with SharePoint as well. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about SharePoint and SharePoint quality, because I know a lot of people probably have some questions about that. So now that I'm in this, what I want you to notice is that I've got my employee handbook and my company travel policy. I've got these things loaded up right here, and I've got support.microsoft.com all loaded up into this so that I can answer questions over this, this content. So if I ask the question here, which is, can I book a first-class ticket for my upcoming trip? What it's going to do is it's going to look at all the different knowledge assets it has access to, and it's going to say, here's the answer based upon the company travel policy. Now, if I come back over and I ask about my 401k plan, you're going to see it come back and it's going to answer the question differently from a different location, which is going to be from my employee handbook, assuming that it will do it. We wait. Here we go. And then I'm going to ask a different question, and I'm going to ask about the Surface Pro 9, where can I find the drivers? And you're going to see that this thing is going to answer this question, but it's going to use web content to be able to give you that information. And then what if I say something in Spanish to it, like what is the size of the screen? Notice that what it's going to do, because it's aware that you switch languages, it turns around and answers the question in Spanish, and then I can even switch back to English, and you're going to see it switch back over to English for me. So now the thing is, this is pretty powerful to start using this, and you can see how it's grounded. But a lot of people are interested in SharePoint. So one of the things that we just released is that if you look at this, I've got human resources, I've got those same documents inside of a SharePoint location here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight something for you guys. And apologies, but Teams always does this weird thing where you can't see your tabs up here. So I'm going to need to do that so I can get over to it. And what this is my Copilot Studio implementation of a Copilot that is connected to SharePoint. Now, something that you may not know is you used to have to set up all this custom auth for SharePoint access. Well, guess what, guys? We worked with the Office team and we were able to get them to say, now we trust each other and we will allow impersonation and token with just Entra ID authentication. So you don't have to go do all of that setup that you used to have to do. And the beauty is that that will work end to end and you get SSO inside of Teams. So you asked for it, you got it. And I'll talk a little bit more about this, but just see here that I've added the SharePoint location here for my HR documents. And now if I want to come in, I can ask a few different questions here, kind of like what we did before. I can say, can I book a first class ticket? And now I'm going to show you a difference in the way that this is working versus the other, because a lot of people talk about SharePoint quality issues, and I wanted you to see the difference here of what's happening. So these are the same ones that we just asked to the other one, and you're going to see that it's going to come back and it's going to start answering these questions, right? And you'll notice here that it didn't get this one right. It didn't actually use that document properly. And then if I ask a question about what is our internal transfer policy, you're going to find that it comes back and it answers this question in not really a great way. And if I ask a follow-up question on it, like how long do I have to work here to be able to transfer internally, right? You'll see it'll give you some sort of generative answer here or general answer, but the answer quality is not at the same fidelity as what we saw before. So let me jump back over here and let me show you what I mean. So in the internal transfer policy question, I can ask that question to this one, which is with the files uploaded to Dataverse. And this becomes a really key thing for you guys to kind of understand the difference in indexing quality between the two systems. So, and I'll explain what we're doing to adjust for this in just a second. So notice that here, it actually gives me a pretty good answer to the question. And if I ask the question of how long do I have to work here to be able to transfer internally, what you're going to see is it's actually going to come back and tell me that at 12 months, right? So it actually came back and answered this question correctly, which is a good thing. But now, with that, let me explain why there's a difference between the way that this answered and the way that we got the answer over here, which I want you to see this other answer. Okay, so you can see here that the difference in the quality of the answer. So let me explain what's going on. What's going on is that in Copilot Studio, we are using the graph search capability inside of Copilot Studio, or inside of the Office graph, to be able to go find this. Now, M365 Copilot is actually using something called, it's using a semantic index that's been built for every single independent user. And as a result, you will see that the quality is better because it's a vectorized search. It is also chunking the file so that you're not sending the whole file. So if you have bigger files, it's going to need to be able to take just a piece that's relevant and send it in. And because of that, you'll see the fidelity of responses inside of the M365 Copilot are really good over the different documents. But it's not so good in Copilot Studio right now because of the fact that that API is a private API. That private API will be getting exposed to Copilot Studio. And through Copilot Studio, it will be the only way to get to that private API, to get to the SharePoint quality that you expect from that semantic index. So know that that will be coming out very shortly, and it's going to be something before the end of the year. You're going to be able to get that level of fidelity, and even to the equivalence of what you're getting out of the Dataverse side, you're going to be getting that out of SharePoint very shortly. And not only that, we're even going to make it available so that if you own the M365 Copilot license, we'll use that license and we won't charge you for it. But if you don't have it, we're not going to say no to you. We're just going to charge you the extra compute that it costs to maintain that index, and you'll be able to get that level of fidelity. So with all of this, this is kind of some of the key things I wanted to show you. I do have one last demo, and I will leave it up to the members of the community if you want to see this last one. If you'd like me to go, I might go a little bit long, but you guys give me thumbs up if you'd like me to show you one last thing. It's pretty cool if you want to see it. All right. All right. Well, glad that you guys can hang out with me tonight. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you one last thing, and I'm going to talk about this, which is AI Builder. So AI Builder is custom prompts and being able to build your own custom prompts without having to stand up a whole Azure AI infrastructure and things of that nature. So you can build your own custom prompts. You can provide inputs into your prompt. You can also connect it to Dataverse data. And you can do this in your topics or topic level intent type of scenarios. So what I want to show you is something that I think is really cool. Yes, I did a video on this, but I want to show you how I can do this and make it something that you can take back and go, wow, this is something I'd really like to be able to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Alt-Tab back over really quick, and we're going to switch back to our original Copilot that we were playing with the Microsoft Store. Now imagine, if you will, that I'm in a situation where I don't want to have it where someone is asking questions and those questions are going back and like I'm asking a question that's going against the public website. It's going to query Bing when it goes to do that. But what if someone is passing their personal identifiable information into that query and I don't actually want it to go there? Like I don't want generative answers to ever answer a question where someone is providing their personal PII. Right? I want to take that out, that capability out. So let me show you how to do this in my video that I show on my YouTube channel. I don't show you how to do it as a default. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And it's actually not too complicated. So the first thing is we'll go into topics. Know that there's system topics. The conversational boosting topic is the topic where if I don't know what you said, where I'm going to say, I want to search. And this right here is the generative answers node that will make this go and search against the different sources that I've provided inside of knowledge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to say, I want to call an action. And you'll notice here that I have this AI builder. You can see here, you can create a prompt, but I've already created one. And the one I created is actually one that checks for PII. So the first thing we want to do is we want to come in and use a system variable, and we want to use activity.text. And activity.text is the last thing you said to this Copilot, so whatever the user typed. And then what I want to show you is I want to show you this, which is, let's click on the AI Builder implementation, and let me show you how this works. It's pretty simplistic in the way that it goes about it. But I want to make sure that you guys kind of see how I did it. So here's my prompt where I'm saying, look in this query and tell me if someone said something in this query that contains PII. Now, if I come over here, you can actually test this and you can see here's where I call it query. So that's what this is. And then you're going to see that my email, like I put in here some sample data. So if I test this against the sample data, we should get back that this is true. And it's going to say, yep, you have PII in this. Now, just to show you what else the AI Builder has in it, you can see here I could come in and add Dataverse tables. You can filter those Dataverse tables. You can insert stuff over here once you add them. You can also say how you want the output versus text or JSON. And here you can determine if you want GPT-4o or 3.5. And then this temperature thing is how creative do you want the response? Do you want it really restrictive or do you want it really creative? And so that's basically what you're going to see inside of AI Builder. So once you've done this, you'd hit save, but we've already saved it. And then all I'm going to do is say that what I want it to do is I want to create a variable. And in this variable, we're going to say PII result. And we're just going to save that variable as this. Notice it says it's a record here. Now, what I need to be able to do here is I need to be able to put some logic. And I'm going to go ahead and say, well, I need an if statement here. So I'm going to add my if statement. I'm going to say if PII result.text, because it automatically parsed out, because what you're going to see is that in that response, we get the text response and we also get the finish reason as part of the AI builder response, because it said it was a record. But I want the actual text. I want the true or false to that came out. I'm going to tell it that I want in without case sensitivity. So I want to know if it says at any point that it's false in the response, I want it to follow this path. Otherwise, I want to do this. I want to send a message. And when I send this message, I want to actually say something back to the user and say, hey, wait a minute. I don't want you. I'm sorry, I can't do this because you've passed personal information. And then what I want to do is I want to come into topic management and I want to end the current topic. Now, the rest of this logic was fine, right? So what I want to do is I want to grab that and I can hold down Control and do a multi-select here. Oh, I'm sorry, hold down Shift. And you can see here I've got all this. Now this is the beauty of the cut and the paste. And voila, we have now created the ability to be able to check for PII. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this off and we're going to test it. So let's go ahead and grab a statement. Again, this was for our Microsoft Store scenario. So let's ask a question that maybe it shouldn't answer. And here I'm asking it if I can order it and then get the receipt sent to my email address. And what you're going to see is if you watch it, it's going to follow this pattern up here. You'll actually see it come down and fire in just a second. It's probably having to wake back up for me not touching it for a minute. Oh, see it fired and it came down here. Notice it got the result and it went this direction. And it says, I'm sorry, you can't do that because of what you said. Ask it without. So let's ask the question without. Oh, sorry. Let me delete that. I didn't copy it properly. Okay, copy. If you didn't notice, that was the JSON. That was actually the YAML from where we copied it before. And I'm going to say if I want to order it, and notice that I'm asking about a receipt. I didn't put PII in. And now watch the difference. When it comes in, it goes the opposite direction and it answers the question for it. So it's checking for that PII and determining yes or no. This is just one of many things you can do within AI Builder with custom prompts. So I hope that you guys like that particular demo. That's kind of a cool thing in my opinion. Know that if you want to go try out Copilot Studio, you can do it aka.ms/try Copilot Studio. And I will hang around for some Q&A if we want to take it. But this is the thing you can scan to go connect with me through LinkedIn or follow me on X. You can also go watch some of the educational videos. So if you want to see some of this stuff in action, feel free to go and check it out. So I'll hang for a few minutes for questions. If you have a question, you can raise your hand and I will be happy to answer it.
Thank you very much, Dewain. Amazing presentation. We do have, there is a question in the chat that I'll just bring up. Are we able to provide photo and camera input?
So photo and camera. Yeah, so photo and camera input is going to be coming to Copilot Studio. It's just not there quite yet. It'll be image input. We're moving to GPT-4o across the board. So the generative answers that you saw today is still off of 3.5 Turbo. The 4.0 version, or the 4.0 version, not 4.0. 4.0 version of it is actually going to be coming out in the coming weeks. So just be aware that that is going to be out, and that is going to then have the ability to be able to see images, and then we will add that capability for you to be able to just provide image input. And we showed that, I think, at Build. So if you want to go back and look at that. Yep.
Cool. There's another one there about, is the PII check still happening with the M365 service boundary considering our scope?
So if you're talking about using it as a Copilot action, the answer is no, because of the fact that that I'm not using it in that case. Now, if you're asking if I had scoped it to SharePoint, if that's your question, then yes, it would have done it even for SharePoint to check it before SharePoint. Now, the way that you could say, don't do the check for SharePoint, but do the check in other places, is you can actually go in and do something where you can filter and say check internal knowledge sources and then check external knowledge sources. So you can kind of configure that flow. I actually have a video on my channel that shows how to be able to do that if you are interested in it.
Thanks, Dewain. I just wanted to make sure. So in case it was not, is there a chance that this PII data can leave the M365 boundary for check against the web or the web LLM version, or is it still happening within the local Azure OpenAI LLM
no,
permit? That's
so
fine.
The PII check that I was just doing
Yes.
is happening within your tenant.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah,
Yep.
that's what I wanted to confirm. Yeah.
Cool. And then we've got one. Adrian asks, the custom prompt actions extra build to the Copilot Studio capacity model?
So currently today you would have AI builder prompts. There's AI builder credits that you would need to purchase in order to be able to do that. So there's definitely a cost associated with that. The same way as if you went to Azure OpenAI, you would pay the Azure OpenAI bill. In the case for when we're using generative AI features inside of Copilot Studio, there is an accelerated message burn that we do in order to do that. So if you generate a response from generative answers or knowledge, it has an additional message that's burned to be able to do that. And that's just so that you don't have to worry about buying tokens and all that. Price-wise, it's about the same as if you paid for the tokens.
Very good. I hope that answers the question, Adrian. Anybody else got any other questions online or in person?
So there is a question. Yeah, so Ben, I just released a video, I think it was week before last, that shows you how to overwrite citations. So if you want to take a look at that, it'll show you how to do it. It specifically was around uploaded documents, but it would work for SharePoint just the same. So feel free to take a look at that.
Perfect.
Yep. So, well, guys, thanks for the time today. Hope this was super helpful for you. Again, don't hesitate to reach out and such. I think, Derek, I don't know if you are raising your hands in celebration or if you have a question, but it looks like he missed the button for the thumbs up. If you guys like the session or whatever, please let Daniel know. And if we want to do some more of things like this around Copilot Studio, I can come back after maybe Ignite, where we're going to announce a lot of new stuff, and we can do some more stuff in this forum. So appreciate all of the support from you guys coming out and joining this. If there's anything else that you need, please don't hesitate to let us know. But I hope it was a good session for all of you.
Thanks, Dewain. That was very good. And for everyone, yes, the recording will be available post event. So I'll send that out to everybody as well. So you will have that. But Dewain, thanks again. Greatly appreciated. I know not feeling 100%, and it's getting late in the evening there. So thank you very much.
No worries. Happy to help, guys. Have a great one.
Thanks everyone online. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you next month.